I'm often asked, in this digital, mobile, technology and data-driven world of exponential media possibilities, how has planning changed? The implication is that it has and it should, but I disagree. Because while much has changed, good marketing, communication and planning is still about creating meaningful, productive connections between brands and humans. Our fundamental nature as humans hasn't changed for thousands of years. It won't change anytime soon. When Stephen King and Stanley Pollitt first established account planning in London in the late 1960s, clients' research departments were expanding rapidly, with access to previously unimagined amounts of data, which may sound eerily familiar. They saw the need for a research professional to work alongside the client service person on all agency accounts, applying the right research at every stage of the process and ensuring that no important decisions were ever made without some early indication of consumer response. Stephen King described it as creative imagination subjected to critical control. That's even more important today than it was in 1968, with the proliferation of information and clients' demand for speed overwhelming both critical control and common sense. One of my colleagues recently asked her boss if she could go away and think about a client brief. Think, he replied, we don't have time to think. For an agency to be useful to its clients, it needs to take aim before it fires, and that's where planners have a critical and unchanged role to play. Planners must be good listeners. They should ask the questions that others fail to ask, say no when the work isn't good enough, be tireless in their support when naysayers threaten the life of a potentially powerful idea, and be careful to base all of this on a solid foundation of careful research. But great planning also requires a philosophical commitment from both agency and client management to getting the work right at all costs. And with that in mind, I have 6 requests for planners, agencies and clients for the digital age. When I came into the business, clients and agencies alike believed instinctively in advertising's ability to shape and modify attitudes and behaviour. Advertising was an opportunity, and the industry's prevailing mood was optimistic, based on a great body of evidence that the right campaign would make a tangible difference to the bottom line. Today, however, we live in an era of accountability. More often than not, agencies find themselves constrained by a process designed for risk reduction and efficiency, rather than the creation of opportunity and effectiveness. True effectiveness starts with setting the right objectives. Doctors distinguish between presenting symptoms and underlying symptoms, but in our world we're often briefed to solve the presenting symptoms and cure a cough, but ignore the underlying tumour. The reason why so many of marketing's underlying problems remain undiagnosed is it would take too long to find and cure them. Chief marketing officers have a shrinking life expectancy, and long-term, to many clients, means the next quarterly reporting cycle. Many briefs and campaigns have short-term objectives based on what's measurable, not what's right for the brand. Agencies are often accessories to the crime. When your margins are being squeezed, it's just easier to take the brief and execute it. Good planners and good planning agencies have to be longer-term guardians of the brand and push back. Ask many people about effectiveness and they'll boast about creating a buzz, driving social engagement, starting a movement. It's so lazy. I like a campaign to start a conversation, but that conversation should always be a means to an end, building a brand. We have to remember the basics, starting with taking a wider view of the world in which our brands exist. We talk a lot about insight, but these insights are often nothing more than one-dimensional observations. True insights burn bright where a brand promise meets a broader cultural and deeper human truth, and planners have to find or create these connections. And that means getting away from their desks and into the real world, understanding the cultural context and human nature by direct observation and contact, not just from Google searches. When my former creative partner, Jeff Goodby, was an eager young copywriter working all hours, the great David Ogilvy told him, "I don't think you can write for 10 hours a day and have it be any good. Maybe 2-3 hours at most. The rest of the day should be devoted to making yourself interesting enough that we might want to read what you're writing." I give the same advice to planners. Get a life. Get out more. Be interesting and interested. A planner's performance can't be judged by the hours they spend at their desk or on the quality of their research reports. The only real measure is the effectiveness of the campaigns they create, which in the end is the only reason that agencies should exist and for clients to pay them.